L-ħodwa tajba, good morning. Aħna u għedin ir-riserva tal-Għadira, waħda mill-isbaħ riservi li għanna f'pajjiżna, fir-rebbija, biex ovvjament nagħlmu n-nies u narfu n-nies il-kampanja On The Move, fuq live Facebook streaming. Importanti għalfej, għax bħalissa r-rebbija il-passa la safar qed ipassu biex ikatru, li hija kruċjali biex nipproteġġuhom. Importanti u għalhekk il-bird life Malta importanti ħafna. Ġifieri jekk ma nipproteġġuhomx issa ma nistgħux ingawdu dawn l-safar għax qed nagħmluhom il-ħsara. Imma aħna ġejna biex nitkellmu fuq iż-żbuħija tal-passa u l-safar li qed jgħaddu mill-Gżejjer Maltin. Importanti wkoll tkunu tafu li llum beda l-staġun tal-kaċċa sa l-offsinar dax-xahar kollu. Importanti tkunu tafu wkoll li fuq is-summin. Immissa nitkellmu li aħna sa ngawdu dawn l-safar li qed ipassu u li aħna badna fl-ixbik bħala ringing.
Bonġu, jena Nikolas Galja, license ringer ta' BirdLife Malta. U l-lum kif spiega tajjeb Nimrod qegħdin hawnhekk l-Għadira biex naraw kif isir ringing u biex narukom ftit safar li qed ipassu minn Malta. Dalgħodu armajna xbiek u għandna ftit safar li qbadna dalgħodu u li issa ħnipproċessawhom. Just to say something in English. Good morning, first of all, to all people following us. We are here at Għadira Nature Reserve, and we are in the middle of spring migration. We are here doing a bird ringing demonstration live from the reserve. So, what is bird ringing? Bird ringing is the study of birds through individual marking of birds. The first bird we have this morning is a male common redstart. This is a young male. The adult male is an even nicer bird than this. And this is what we call a trans-Saharan migrant. So this entire winter in Africa and is now going north to breed. The first step in bird ringing is putting on a ring. The ring is a special ring called a split ring, which we put on the lower part of the bird's leg, called the tarsus. The ring has a unique code on it, which uniquely identifies the bird in Malta and has as well an address, BirdLife Malta, on it, which identifies the bird uniquely globally. Everything we do, we keep note of, and then we put in our database 362204.
The ring is weightless, it's minimum, isn't it?
Yes, the ring is made of a special material that is very durable, but at the same time it is very light. It is also put on the bird in such a way that it can move in both directions and move up and down, so it doesn't hinder the bird in any way.
It's like having a bracelet.
Yeah, an even very light bracelet. We measure the wing of the bird.
I wanted to ask you, Nick, a lot of people ask me this. If it's got a red breast, it's a robin. But no, there are a lot of birds that have red.
Yes, red is quite a prominent color in birds. And as you said, this is not a robin, this is a redstart. We have another species of redstart, the black redstart, which a lot of people see on their roofs in their gardens during winter. It's called fjamma in Maltese. Mela dan l-asfur tal-passa jissejjaħ kudir-ross għax għandu dembu aħmar. Għalhekk redstart bl-Ingliż.
Ġej mit-Taljan u koda rossa.
Eżatt. Mu bħalissa qed ipassi qatt tax-xitwa l-Afrika u bħalissa qed ipassi sejjer fl-Ewropa biex ibejjed. Niċċekkjaw billi nonfħu r-rix naraw ix-xaħam li jissejjaħ subcutaneous fat, ġifieri taħt il-ġilda, u dan ix-xaħam jiservi ta' fuel għall-asafar waqt li qed ipassu. U jtina indikazzjoni ta' l-asfur kemm bata biex wasal Malta tul il-lejl. Ħafna minn dawn l-asafar ipassu bil-lejl biex jifrankaw kemm il-qilla tax-xemx u wkoll il-predaturi. L-aħħar step huwa li naraw kemm jiżen l-asfur. B'dan il-każ jiżen 16.4 grams, 16 gramma. U dak huwa l-proċess. Imbagħad ovvjament l-iktar ħaġa importanti l-asfur jerġa' jintelaq biex ikompli l-vjaġġ tiegħu.
Għax ir-ringing huwa biex aħna nitalmu mill-ambjent, mhux nuħdu jew nisirqu mill-ambjent. L-unika ħaġa li se nuħdu huma l-informazzjoni u vera nik.
Eżatt, hemm diversi raġunijiet għal xi isir ringing u hemm diversi suġġetti li nitalmu dwarhom meta nkunu qed nagħmlu l-ringing. L-ewwel ħaġa li hija forsi l-iktar waħda li tissemma, l-iktar waħda evidenti hija l-fatt li inti qed timmarka l-asfur. Meta dan l-asfur jista' jerġa' jinqabad, tkun tista' titrekkja l-moviment tiegħu. Però mbagħad hemm oħrajn, ġifieri inti meta taqbdu l-asfur, l-ewwel nett taf li għadu ħaj, mela jekk battu sena wara taf li l-asfur għadu ħaj sena wara. Hawnhekk għandna asfur ieħor tal-passa, bil-Malti jissejjaħ bekkafik ħamrani, bl-Ingliż dan jissejjaħ white throat. Huwa tip ta' warbler, huwa tip ta' bufula, eżatt, huwa asfur pjuttost komuni li jgħaddi f'numru pjuttost kbar. Huwa asfur pjuttost sempliċi wkoll, jintaraf għandu dan il-rix kannelli ħamrani fuq il-ġewnaħ u għandu l-abjad fit-tarf ta' dembu. Imbagħad għandu l-kulur ta' rasu, eċċetera. F'dan il-każ din hija mara għax ir-raġel jista' jkun li għandna xi raġel għandu rasu blu fil-gris jkun asfur ħafna isbaħ. Normalment fl-asafar il-raġel ikun isbaħ mill-mara biex jatratta iktar il-mejt tiegħu il-mara u wkoll biex il-mara tkun inqas prominenti meta tkun fuq il-bejta.
Hekk kont se nsaqsik, ġifieri aħna l-irġiel nagħmlu kollox għall-mara. Dak huwa.
Ekku.
Naqsik nitalmu ħaġa mill-asafar. Yes, we're just talking about that, yes. Us men would do everything for our women. I mean, if we can only learn from the birds, exactly, that's what they do. So, as Nick was saying, I'll say it in English, that the reason most birds are sexually dimorphic, so different in coloration from the sexes, is the males to impress because of the color, showing strength and health. Because if you are so obvious in the wild, it shows that you are strong. And it's important too that they are more prominent than the females. The females are more camouflaged because if they're incubating eggs, they don't want to be, hey, look at me, because the eggs, the young, are the most precious thing. And that's why they are quite dull, with all due respect to all female birds. The raptors, women are larger, stronger, and some of them are more colorful, okay, birds of prey.
So, as you can see, we are keeping these birds temporarily in these cotton bags. These are what we call bird bags. So basically, this is these bags. We keep these birds in these bags so that they are calm before being processed, because they are in a dark place, and of course they can breathe as well, similar today like we put our face masks on. So this is a wood warbler. It's a smaller bird than the ones we've ringed so far. In fact, we use a smaller sized ring. We have different sizes of rings which we use according to the size of the leg of the bird. This is a leaf warbler. It is a bird that is brightly yellow and green colored. It blends well with the
Foliage.
with the leaves of trees. It likes to spend most of its time feeding in. These kind of warblers tend to spend a lot of time in the canopies. A similar bird to this is the chiff-chaff, which we did not have today because it is quite late in the season, and we can see that these birds are much more longer winged because they need a larger wingspan to cross longer distances.
And that greenish yellow reminds me of a lemon. They're quite stunning. And they're green, as Nick was saying, because they're camouflaged from birds of prey flying above. They look more like leaves. And birds of prey obviously use sight. They can see ultraviolet. And that was such a very, brilliant way of explaining the bags to our masks. Because some people say, oh, but there are no holes in the bags. Well, it's breathable material, like our masks. And they're perfectly safe. They can breathe perfectly fine. And now they're good to go. What amazes me is such a small bird crosses, obviously, from tropical Africa, crossing the Sahara, crossing the Mediterranean, now coming here. And don't forget, if it's windy, a storm, rain, all these factors, they're using their food source, their energy, their fat, and then muscle. Hey, buddy. Flew over my head. So, yeah.
So this wood warbler weighs just 10 grams, and as Nimrod was explaining, it crosses long distances.
I mean, we were talking this earlier in the morning. What's amazing is this bird in a canopy in Africa could have been, with some colobus monkeys or having elephants foraging and browsing below them or amongst them. Oh, this is nice.
So this is a white-throat, another white-throat. This time it's a male. We'll ring it first. We can see that it's a male because it has its colors are more it's more brightly colored, sort of. It has this very distinct white eye ring, and it also has this bluish gray. It's a young male. It will look even better next year, and also the white on its tail is pure white. But as we can see, the tail is quite old, indicating that it's an old tail, basically.
So not.
And again, we have the brown, which helps us identify the bird.
So it wasn't molted this year, the tail. The tail was molted last year. Joħrof is-sena li għaddiet, ġifieri.
So for every bird we do the same process, and we all collect this data in the database. So we take we first identify the species. From the species we can determine the ring that the bird needs to take. We put on the ring, we write down the sex and the age if we can tell, because some birds you cannot tell whether it's a male or a female, or if it's a young or an adult bird. We measure the wing, fat and muscle, and then weight, and then we release it, basically. Today it's a bit slower than usual, of course, because we are explaining. In a typical day we are processing birds much quicker.
And this is done by practice. How long do you take to become a...
Yes, in Malta to become a licensed ringer you need at least 2.5 years. We have a training program which anyone interested really can take it up. It of course requires a lot of dedication, because this is a highly specialist activity, sort of, which requires some experience and training.
It's a scientific process. We're
Yes.
gathering knowledge, data to pass on, because birds are indicator species. They indicate the health of the environment that we are part of, and we forget to think that. Don't forget, pandemics, it's because we were stealing, taking animals from the wild and consuming them, and now we have the situation. So don't forget that we have to read nature like a book. And if we don't, this is what happens. We have to respect it.
This is a female white-throat again. White-throat is the most dominant species at this time of year. Together with wood warbler usually. And later we have another species which is called garden warbler.
For our audiences, most people probably would ask, so why are they put in the little tubs, containers? Is the dark beneficial for them? Do they feel more comfortable? Nick, what?
So yes, basically we put them there to weigh them, of course. The container is a good size so that the birds has the wing closed so it doesn't fly away. We put them there for a few seconds and then we of course let them go. Another white-throat. So birds, most of the birds migrate during the night and we get them in the morning. But in spring, since the distance is quite long from Africa, which is different from autumn when they are coming from mainland Europe, it is quite close. Sometimes it takes them more than a night to get here. So birds are flowing as well during the day.
And as you said, the night, they obviously are avoiding predation. Most raptors are diurnal birds. They use sight, and obviously they hunt at night and during the day. Owls are raptors too, but those are a specialized group. I'm gonna speak in Maltese. Naqbes bil-Malti. Xtaqt tajt xi ħaġa ara. Għallek hello. Li qed ngħidu li ħafna passa sseħħ bil-lejl. Ir-raġuni hija biex l-asafar jiskansaw jevitaw il-predaturi. Issa l-predaturi tajt tal-priża li jużaw l-għajnej u ma jistgħu jaraw ammont astronomiku b'għajnejhom u jaraw anka l-ultraviolet light, il-raġġi UV, il-kuluri li jaraw u affaxxinanti. Ara għandna hawnhekk x'għandna Nick.
Għandna dak li jissejjaħ isfar bil-Malti, yellow wagtail bl-Ingliż. Ovvjament jissejjaħ isfar minħabba dan il-kulur isfar bright yellow li għandu. Dan ukoll huwa sfur tal-passa. Għandna 3 speċi ta' tsakak. Dan huwa tip ta' tsakak, tip ta' wagtail, għandna 3 Malta. 2 li jkunu għaw fix-xitwa u dan li jkun għaw fil-waqt il-passes. Dan huwa raġel għax huwa għandu l-isfar tiegħu daqshekk prominenti u l-yellow wagtail interessanti għax jeżistu ħafna dak li jsejħu sottospeċi, subspecies. Jiġri għandna ikollhom il-kulur ta' rashom differenti. Dan huwa l-iktar wieħed komuni, jissejjaħ flava, però għandna differenti u llum inserta fir-riserva għaw numru sostanzjali minnhom.
U ta' kull kulur, ta' kull ġens tista' tgħid għax l-irjus jivvarjaw. We're saying that yellow wagtails, being a migratory species that would have spent wintering in sub-Saharan Africa, tropical Africa, the savannah, you know, foraging around rhino dung and elephant dung, catching all sorts of insects. They have different subspecies which you can easily recognize, and I say easily, Nick would easily recognize, the coloration of the head, the crown. Some of them have a beautiful, almost metallic grey, jet black crown. Some have large bands, some grey. They vary, and you know which region they are from and which region they breed. Because right now, birds are migrating north to where they breed, and they have no time to waste. There's no time to waste for love. So they have to migrate and go north to start a family of their own. And, ooh, the nails are quite long. Are they related to pipits?
Yes, it's typical signs of a bird that spends a long time on the ground, feeding on the ground, are long, first of all, quite long legs as well, and also these long fingernails, which help them to run around and give them that
like a sprinter with different shoes, or a footballer having those studs.
That boost. And it's called the wagtail because they tend to wag a lot their tail, which is quite long as well.
So it chases the insects. It's going to be feeding along the ground, not like a wood warbler in amongst the leaves in a canopy, eh, Nick? It's a
Yes, it
ground
typically feeds on the ground. They typically use reeds to roost, but otherwise they spend most of their day feeding on the ground.
Where's a good place to see them during the spring in Malta? Let's say a nice roost.
Typically in valleys and in the reserves is a good place to see these birds.
Which, unfortunately, right now the reserves are closed because of the pandemic.
Yes.
I mean, we do understand this is the situation we're in. Just yes, we have to remember too that the Għadira Nature Park is open to the public, not the visitor center, but the walk along the salt pans is.
So here we have a non-migratory bird, a resident bird. This is a Chetty's warbler. It's a bird which you rarely see, but you hear giving a very loud burst of song. As you can see, it is already ringed, because we ring here regularly. So most of the birds that live here, we have already ringed them. In this case, this is a male because it is large. And at this time of year as well, their fingernails are sharper than the rest of the year. And that's another sign. You can feel that it's a male.
I didn't know that. I learned something new. So why is that? Why do you think that is, Nick? Is there
I assume it's related to breeding behavior, sort of.
like courtship or
337
defense? They're very vocal, these birds. If you're in a valley and you hear like something, sorry, that sounded so horrible. I tried. Maybe Nick can try better. He's better at calls. That's a Chetty's warbler. Bufula tal-olli.
Bufula tal-olli, eżatt. What's interesting about this bird as well is that it's one of the very few species that has only 10 feathers in its tail. Typically, most birds, so we'll count the others, have 12 feathers. So this bird has 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the way they are spread, it's like a fan. This bird has a very interesting egg color as well. Its nest, the colors are like Maltesers. They are reddish brown. Probably it is so that it is very difficult for parasites like the cuckoo to imitate.
So when we say parasites, because cuckoos, al-kahla, Maltese, lay an egg in the nest of other birds. So they parasitize on the pair that's tending to that nest. Now, if the egg is of a different color, being visual, these birds will realize and remove it from the nest. But if they don't, the cuckoo chick, when it hatches, it knows, and it will hatch a day or two before the others, and will push the eggs out of the nest. So it's the only one there, ensuring that it will be the absolute winner when it comes from the adoptive parents to feed it. And you'll see photos.
That's the song.
You see, totally different from what I said, okay? Totally different. But yes.
It's the same bird we just released.
Just saying thank you. We assure you it said thank you, did not swear at us. So what is it in this bag now? Oh,
it's another white-throat. Another male white-throat.
If occasionally you see me looking up, it's because it's migrating season and you never know what's going to come through. Glossy ibises, white stork, Montague's harrier, bee-eaters. Right now it's quite beautiful when you feel that there is life, and these birds are going to breed, so you realize that you are part of something much bigger, you know, the holistic way of this world we're part of, which every day we should be always amazed. We're never alone. When it comes to nature, we're never alone. So does the weight vary a lot? Same species, Nick?
It varies according to the fat deposits they have usually. So of course, the fatter the bird is, the more weight it has. A species will have its average weight, and then depending on the bird's condition, the bird will weigh. A bird which is quite light will need to eat more, so before migrating it will stay here. And the reserve is very important for that because it offers habitat which brings a good number of insects and fruit
Exactly.
for these birds
And
to
that's
feed
why
on.
it's crucial not to use insecticides or pesticides and find alternative organic methods, because not only we're poisoning ourselves, but we're totally devastating these beautiful birds that need all the...
So this is another wood warbler.
I'm noticing it's a bit lighter than the one we had before.
Yes, they do vary, but it doesn't mean that it's a male or a female or...
Exactly. So this would be a sexually monomorphic. You can't tell by color if it's a male or a female. It has to be biometric measurements that would indicate.
No, in these birds you wouldn't. You can't tell. What if you are in the breeding grounds of these birds, then you would know because of the behavior
Yes.
during breeding.
Wanted to ask you, I mentioned biometric measurements. What does that mean, Nick?
Biometric means biological measurements, sort of. So it's there are different aspects when you are studying. So there's morphological aspects, which is things you can see,
Yes.
and there's biometrics, which is things you measure in biology.
So, for example, the size of the beak.
So these are all. So we identify the species, sex and age typically from stuff we can see, and then we take other biometrics, which with the visual eye wouldn't know how long a wing is, for example.
Yes. Just so you know, Nick makes this look so easy, okay? It is not. Having to explain and talk about this whilst taking measurements, you know, putting the ring on and everything. It is quite amazing to see. Oh wow! Il-Khuttafa,
So this is a
male.
sort of famous spring bird. It's the swallow, the barn swallow. As you can see, it has this beautiful metallic blue on its back, on its feathers, which only adult birds in spring have. As Nimrod says, this is a male because of its very long streamers. This is quite a reddish bird.
Nice.
As you can see, its underparts are quite reddish. Typically it indicates that it's a bird from the eastern race. This bird, compared with other birds, has a very long wing because it spends a lot of its time in flight, and it also feeds whilst flying. But its feet, its legs are very short because it only uses it to rest. It doesn't use it for anything else, basically.
We have a famous magazine, Il-Khuttafa.
Exactly.
As a child, still to this day, I love it. And say hi to Victor from here, teacher for life. And what I was going to say was, I'll say it, this bird could breed easily on, you know, in our country, our balconies. These don't build a nest out of twigs or branches, but they build a nest out of mud. Okay, like little bowls, and quite amazing, okay? Aħna l-Maltin dal-asfur il-Khuttafa, Maltin u Għawċin, saw deċa tibejtu, hemm popolazzjonijiet. Hawnhekk għandna jkollna kull raħa li kollu taħt il-galleriji, ikonna daw il-Khuttaf, jieklu n-nemus u aħna kulħadd jaf fis-sajf kulħadd tieħom fin-nemus, imma qed ngħidlek dan irid jgħix fuqhom jikolhom u iktar m'għandna mill-Khuttaf inqas għandna nemus. U tinsewx ukoll in-nemus iġorru l-mart bħal il-malarja, bħal ħafna affarijiet oħra, ġifieri importanti li ngħinu il-kontroll bioloġiku dawn huma l-aħjar, mhux biex joppif paffu dawn l-affarijiet li nużaw ngħidu hekk. Dawn huma l-aħjar. Tela, ara. Sabiħ, hekk was quite a beautiful male. This is another one, and you
We
can
have
see
another
the difference.
swallow, and this time this is a female. As you can see, its tail streamers are much shorter. Again, long-winged, nice metallic blue. And this is much paler as well.
It's amazing that these birds could have come from the Cape too, from South Africa, all the way far southernmost, and crossed all of Africa, the desert. Have you had records of barn swallows, ring retrapped controls from the UK or the Western flyway?
Yes. Typically most of our birds come from the east. So most of our birds, through ringing, we know that most of our birds come from Central and Eastern Europe. But as Nimrod is saying, we had occasionally birds coming from the west. Typically we have these birds in spring, so it's most likely that they wintered and they went down from their proper route, and then they somehow either got lost or joined some other flocks and came through the central route.
Change of scenery, as they say. Look at that.
Għadira offers a very good habitat for swallows because there's typically a lot of insects, a lot of mosquitoes, and at the same time there is reeds as well, which is their preferred roosting place.
And if we want to encourage them, we can do these little platforms underneath our balconies or by our windows, and maybe, fingers crossed, they might choose to start nesting. Oh wow!
So this is quite a special bird. It's called the hupu. Id-daqqu tat-toppu bil-Malti. It-toppu ovvjament it-toppu li għandha fuq rasa. Meta tkun qed ittir jew meta tkun qiegħda alert tiftħu u jiġi jiffenja.
It's the national bird of Israel too, the hupu.
Id-daqqu jasfur jidher eżotiku ħafna. Alla volja fl-idejn tidher li għandha dal-ħafna kuluri u ħafna li tagħmilha prominenti meta tkun mal-art. Ma tarajiex. Normalment ittajjara u tara tinqala u tara dak il-flashes suwed u bojot.
It-tieri sa farfett, il-ġwejnaħ tiftħu hekk tara dawk il-faxex prominenti. Ġifieri dal-asfur jiekol mal-art.
Eżatt, dan asfur jiekol billi naqqar minn mal-art fil-fatt għandu
fis-siġar ifittx l-insetti fis-siġar.
Għandu munqaru twil ħafna. U jużah biex jipprobja ngħidu, jħaffer u jnaqqar ġol-ħamrija.
Jien darba rajthom trejqa hekk li mtaħleb u beda jdaħħal munqaru f'naqa ħamrija naqa radba u ħareġ kull ħanex u tiskanta. Jagħmel ħafna ġid ukoll lill-bidwi għax anke jkoll xi larvi kbar ta' insetti li jistgħu jiklu xi għerq ta' xi xejjex.
Ovvjament id-daqqu peress li jasfur ikbar u saqa jaħxen nagħmluha ċurkett li huwa pjuttost kbir komparat ma li konna qed nużaw s'issa. Bl-Ingliż tissejjaħ hupu mill-lanja tar-raġel.
Exactly as Nick was saying, the name hupu is an onomatopoeic name. It calls. I've only in Malta, I've only heard it 3 times in the wild. So it's not something common that you'll hear often, or at least in my experience. See, Nick is checking for the visual markers to identify.
We use books to compare markings that can help us identify the age and sex of the bird. This is a relatively small bird, which indicates that it's a female. And the outer tail feather, the shape of the outer tail feather here indicates that it is an adult bird. So this is an adult female on its way up to breed.
Hopefully she'll have some chicks. She'll make it.
We use a bigger pot.
These birds always remind me of.
So this is 50 grams, 51.7 grams.
So amazing, hey, tropical. You would never think that this is a bird you'd find in Malta.
So this bird, we don't hold it from its legs, because its wings are very powerful, and if it flaps, we can easily hurt it. And there it goes.
It's been a good day, I think, for hoopoes. So where would be a good place to go and expect hoopoes? Like Foresta 2000 or?
Yes, hoopoes like to stay in the shade, sort of trees. They like to feed on the ground, but they like to stay where there's trees. Although during migration, you can see them practically anywhere. So even on Garrigue.
Yes, I've seen them over Valletta, flying over literally Merchant Street.
But typically places like Foresta 2000, like Kennedy Grove, like
which are open.
Busquet, are very good for hoopoes.
Have a lovely walk.
Another swallow.
Have you ever heard hoopoes calling in Malta, Nick?
Yes. Typically in the morning, especially the early migrants, the males, because in spring mostly the males migrate first, because they are in a hurry to go and find the territory.
What an interesting thing I had read on hoopoes, just that in the Old Testament, it's one of the birds that you could not hunt and eat. Like eagles, storks.
That's because I read recently as well, it is considered a very dirty bird,
Because
apparently.
the nest smells a lot.
Yes.
So, that was nice. Stinky bird.
Wind is picking up.
Yes, it is.
So this is a male as well, the swallow. It has a long streamer.
Are the streamers used in part of the mating ritual, or do we know? If
No.
there's anything? No, I've always wondered.
The tail is very useful during migration for birds which stay a lot in flight. Why the streamer is longer in males, and what
No, there must be.
if females are attracted to longer streamered males, I don't know.
We should ask them. Through science, we'll hopefully find out.
So this is a bird which we haven't seen so far this morning. It's a subalpine warbler. It's a similar bird to the white-throat, but it is much smaller. And it migrates earlier as well. So we are now towards the end of migration of the subalpines, whilst the white-throats we are at the beginning. In fact, this is a female. Most males have passed already through. The male has a beautiful brick red throat,
Quite stunning.
whilst the female is quite drab, so to speak.
And the reason males migrate before, or predominantly are before, is there a reason for that? Territorial, establishment?
Yes, the males typically migrate earlier because they try to find their territory first. So the best area where there's more food, where there's good habitat for them to raise their young,
Best
basically.
chance to attract a female and
Yes.
success in rearing up the.
And then when the females gets there, sort of, they choose the best male.
Exactly. Best chances to pass on your genes.
It's called subalpine warbler because it breeds in southern of the alpine line. So this is a Mediterranean bird.
Quite stunning. Good luck.
Typically as well, the shorter the distance, the birds need to migrate. The earlier you see them as well, because they don't. Because of course, the northern you go, the more you have to wait for the weather to get habitable for these species.
And there could be, especially even with climate change, all these fluctuations, you arrive there and it's cool, but you can still find food, and then there's a freak blizzard. And then obviously you don't find food and you die. So timing it's quite crucial, quite amazing. And these birds instinctively know. You know, there are markers that we might not yet recognize that is done. Li rrid ngħid bil-Malti li dawn l-asafar jarfu il-passa kif għandhom jgħaddu għax anka jekk jaslu ċertu postijiet naħa ta' fuq tad-dinja, jekk jaslu ftit qabel u sseħħ xi Malta mbagħad borra u hekk ma jsibux xieklu dawn mietu, dawn għamlu dik il-vjaġġ kollu mill-Afrika qasmu d-deżert, qasmu l-baħar biex jispiċċaw mbagħad jaslu fejn jridu ma ikatru u ma jsibux l-ikel għax għadha kesħa jew għax hemm is-silġ jew borra. Jew anka ma nfetħux il-fjuri u m'hemmx dik il-larva d-dudu li qed jiekol fuqhom li jużaw biex huma jitmgħu l-frieħ. Fidi il-bidla fil-klima qed taffettwa qed tħawwat kollox. U aħna parti mit-tort. Rridu niftakru dan. Li aħna kull azzjoni għandha konsegwenza. Kollox fil-ħajja aħna parti mid-dinja, min-natura.
U kanna sfur ieħor li għadna ma rajniex dal-għodu, dan jissejjaħ dizzu bil-Malti, tripipit. Jissejjaħ dizzu għax għandu lajta tiegħu hija huwa ħoss li jixbaħ insomma lajta hija dizz prattikament.
Għandna ħafna u hekk, aħna l-Maltin ninduna n-nota li ħafna smijiet huma onomatopoeiċi. Il-lajta tal...
Dan huwa sfur ukoll li jħobb joqgħod ħafna mal-art, allura għandu saqaħ twal u dwiefer ukoll twal bħal marajna ta' yellow wagtail tal-isfar, però dan il-pipit partikolari bejjed fis-siġar. Għalhekk jissejjaħ tree pipit.
L-Skozza konna naraħ.
Huwa sfur pjuttost komuni ġieli naraw tajja kbar għaddej. Normalment jgħaddi fi ġranet meta t-temp ikun iktar imsaħħab, ikun riħ minn naħa t'isfel. U jpassi ħafna bil-lejl ukoll. Ħafna drabi meta toħroġ kmieni fil-għodu fid-dlam tisma' d-dizzu tinduna l-indikazzjoni li għaddejn l-asafar li tipassu bil-lejl.
The person that's been just change into English, thank you. Thank you very much. The gentleman's name, Andrew. Yes, so it seems that the streamers for the swallows, it's sexual not dimorphism as such as it is sexual dimorphism, but actually showing that yes, there is a preference to males that have longer streamers. Okay, we'll just say that simply. Okay, so yes, if you've got longer streamers, you've got better luck pulling. Okay, in a good English way. So thank you, Andrew. Yes, absolutely.
So today we were
wow,
quite lucky. Sure.
Open the. I'm not going to try to do the.
Because we got two hoopus, which is not a very common
thing
for
us.
This is quite larger, and as you can see as well, it has its crest is larger. It has quite this salmon pink here, which indicates that this bird is a male.
Beautiful male, huh? I mean, stunning. Yes, strong.
It's a bird which looks like it comes from Africa.
Tropical.
Yeah,
yes,
very exotic looking.
Exactly, you'd never imagine, you think, it belongs in a jungle, but it's a ground feeding, savanna, sub-Saharan, tropical, anywhere it will they come. There is even an African species that does not migrate.
Yeah, it used to be a subspecies, now it's considered as a species.
The one in Madagascar, is that...
That's another species as well. The African bird does not have the white here.
Yes.
So when you see it flying, you don't see this. Which if you are used to these birds, when you see them flying, you see it very strange.
Like there's something wrong, something missing. You've seen them in Africa, the African hoopoe, I presume.
Yes.
You've been to a few countries there. Which I'm fantasizing now. Hopefully, once restrictions, we'll see. One worries when we go to these countries, because you worry you might just burn your passport and never come back, you know, this is the whole thing. So what a hoopoe would eat grubs and insects, as we said, and that probe. All birds that have long beaks eat and dig in the soil, or no? There are different...
No, it depends. It depends of what the kind of birds. For example, herons as well have long thin beaks, but they use them to
stab fish in the water.
To catch fish.
Brilliant. So a beak that looks similar doesn't mean it does the exact same, has the exact same use. And it's a bit curved too. It's quite nice.
Let's see if it fits.
And when they're in the dark, they're comfortable. You can see they don't move.
So the other hoopoe had a wing length of 140 millimeters, and this one had 151, which for that size, an entire 1 centimeter is proportionally quite large. And this bird also
looks big too in the hand. It really does look big.
The previous hoopoe weighed 50 grams and this bird weighed 80 grams. Whoa. Which is again almost twice the size.
A big boy, I presume, or have you sexed the bird yet?
Yes, it's a male.
It's a male.
Even the bill is longer as well.
Stunning. Good luck. Maybe they're a couple. Maybe they'll meet over here. Wow. He left us a present, so I think we can...
Yeah.
Simple as that. Never leave home without the antiseptic. We try not to be positive. Would you like some antiseptic?
No, thank you. So I have another white throat here. I'll try and rush through some of the ringing so we'll see more. This is a male white throat, a young male.
I'm so, it never ceases to amaze me that, they're moving through Africa or, birds in the northern hemisphere. Just to make it there, quite amazing.
14.0.
Wow. Those hoopoes were quite nice, eh?
Yeah. They're always the stars of the show. Hoopoes.
Flamboyant and colorful. Let's see what we have.
Another tree pipit.
A lot of people would associate with thrushes, like a song thrush, the striations and all that.
Yes, it's very camouflaged. It's again another bird which, unless you flush, you typically won't see before you flush it, and then typically it calls as well, so it becomes very prominent then. Very obvious. 362, 217.
Quite a lovely bird.
These birds, for example, you can't tell if they are males or females, and you can't tell if they are adult or young at this time of the year, because they all change their they molt in their wintering grounds.
So in Africa,
Yes, so they are here with all the feathers are fresh. They change their feathers before they migrate. There are different what we call molting strategies. Some birds molt in winter, some birds do a partial, what we call partial molt, so they change some feathers and then change the feathers after. Typically it depends on migration and distances, because for a bird it's very important that during migration especially all the entire set of feathers are all useful for flight.
absolutely.
And not only flight, of course, feathers are their main means of defense as well, to get away from predators, etc.
Exactly. I mean, that's why they preen. Oh, wow! Something you expect in winter.
Yes, so we have a very late robin here. Robins are typically birds we catch in large numbers in autumn and winter. So this bird is already ringed, as you can see. It most likely came here in autumn, spent the entire winter here, and will now leave. Through ringing, we know that most robins return to their same wintering grounds every year. We had records of even 6-year-old robins coming in Għadira, for example,
And these are
every year.
Don't forget, we were the generation, I think, that started being normal not to trap these robins, to keep in cages. Because back then, like back in the UK or Northern Europe, egg collecting for schoolboys was trapping robins. And then through education, back then MOS, the Maltese Ornithological Society, BirdLife Malta, now part of BirdLife International, there was a huge education campaign to enjoy it in the wild, in your garden, free and alive, not in cages. And that's quite beautiful.
A robin is another bird which you cannot say the difference between the male and the female. Both sexes look alike. You can say if the bird is young or adult. In this case, this is a young bird. We can tell from the difference in colors. We have some of the feathers have a light tip, and others are all dark. And the young robin also has a pointed tail.
Quite stunning. I never get tired of seeing robins. My mum's favorite bird. Perfect. Il-Peter Ross. We've seen quite a few waders too flying about in the reserve. Little ringed plovers.
Another wood warbler. Very colorful, brightly colored and long wings.
Some of them are a bit nervous. It's quite amazing, eh?
Dan l-asfur huwa violin safrani, huwa asfur tal-passa bħal ħafna mill-asafar l-oħra li rajna. Namlulu ċurket li huwa ħarira iżgħar miċ-ċrieket l-oħra, ġri huma sizes differenti minħabba li dan għandu xaqaħ irqieqa. Ovvjament importanti li tkun taf l-asfur minn fejn għandek iż-żommu, eċetera, ntuka saħna qatt ma naqbdu l-asafar minn din il-biċċa t'isfel tas-sieq għax hija
Fraġli ħafna.
fraġli, eżatt. 41P 72. Nikdbu l-ispeċi tal-asfur. Dal-każ huwa wood warbler bl-Ingliż. Dan l-asfur ma tistax tgħid jekk hux mara jew raġel u laqqas jekk hux ferħ jew adult.
Għal-asfur żgħir vera għandu ġek saħħa, ma jibżax. jien qatt ma nieqaf nitpaxxa li daw qasmu kontinenti, tissemm il-passa, tinsewx waqt li qed tisseħħ il-passa tal-asafar issa fir-rebbija mill-Afrika għall-Ewropa, tisseħħ il-passa fl-Ameriki mill-Amerika t'isfel għall-Amerika ta' fuq, mill-Asja t'isfel mill-Indja għal fuq għal-Russja, fimt anka l-Awstralja hemm passes li hemm safar li qattaw ix-xitwa l-Awstralja jew qattaw u jpassu ġifieri il-Northern u Southern Hemispheres, ġifieri kollox id-dinja dil-passa qed isseħħ speċi differenti imma tal-bliħ. So, just wanted to, as we said, BirdLife International, BirdLife Malta, on the move. This is not only happening in Europe, I mean migration, our birds, and I say our birds because they belong to all of us, leaving Africa, going up to Europe to breed, but it's happening in the Americas, in, South America, Central, going to North America, all the way up to, Alaska and the North Pole. We're talking about in Southeast Asia, going up all the way to northern Russia, India, all the way up north, northern Russia, even Australia, we're talking about migrations, and it's quite unbelievable. We are all connected, and this is part of an amazing web of life, our ecologies. This is a beautiful, stunning adult male, isn't it?
It's a young male.
Young, whoa.
You can see that it's young, if you look closely, from these, what we call coverts here. So some of them are edged brown, and some of them are edged grey.
Okay. And
the adult feathers are edged grey, so eventually next year they will be all edged grey.
So this
bird did a partial molt, it changed some of the...
This bird is...
It's a young bird, it's a young male.
A red start.
Again, like Nimrod said earlier, we had the robin, which is the most famous red-breasted bird, but this as well has a beautiful orangish breast, plus a black head and white on its head, which make it look very...
And this is a much nicer, the coloration of the earlier bird we ringed.
Yes, this is much more brightly colored. But still, it's a young bird as well.
That's why you keep it to the licensed experts to tell you exactly, because they know where to look. And as I'm saying, each species, there are different ways you can recognize it from age and sex. Not all of them, for example, have the coverts or tail feathers, but there are different. Let's see what's next. Not an ostrich? Okay.
Another subalpine warbler. Another female. As we said earlier, most males have gone through by now.
It happens with raptors too, Montagues.
In Maltese, this is called Bufula passaira, which I think it means the migratory warbler. The migratory...
Passa means migration in Maltese. Passaira. Could be.
Ringing gives you the opportunity as well to see features which you don't see in the field.
Exactly.
So like the red start, you would say it's a male red start in the field, but unless you see it really close by, you wouldn't know if it's a young or an adult bird.
For me, the biggest satisfaction is gathering that knowledge and then releasing it. This is, not taking anything but knowledge from the wild. Let's see, this is like Christmas all over again, never knowing what to get in the instead of the Christmas sock. There's a white
Another white throat.
There might be some rare bird flying about.
So we do this throughout the year. In the reserves we have ringing ongoing nearly every day, which is called constant effort. By keeping the nets and the same methodology every day, it is easier to compare statistically. You can, for example, say that today with southeast wind we had a good migration, and on other days with northwest wind we did not have good migration.
It's a scientific process. This is exactly, we're representing our country too on this level of ornithology, because all of this knowledge is shared internationally. What is the organization called, Nick?
Yes, BirdLife Malta ringing scheme is part of URing, which is the overarching ringing organization in the EU.
It's catchy. You ring, I ring, we ring.
Yeah.
You ring.
in Europe, basically, which sort of governs the ringing in Europe, and part of our records we submit to URing. We don't submit all the new birds, but we submit what we call the recaptures. This is a bird which we haven't seen so far today. It's actually my first garden warbler of the spring. It's again a very common bird, but which typically migrates. It peaks later. This is one of the first ones going through at the moment. Bil-Malti dal-asfur jissejjaħ bekka fik. Bekka fik ġejja mit-Taljan għax jħobb jikoll frott, jħobb jikoll it-tin, speċjalment meta jkun hawn fil-passa tal-ħarifa f'Awwissu, bekka fiko.
Mit-Taljan, bekko u
dan l-asfur huwa wieħed mill-iktar asafar plain li jpassu minn Malta. Huwa pjuttost kulur wieħed overall. Għandu dan naqa' grisa u il-bqija huwa wieħed ieħor l-istess kulur.
ċort asfur ħelu.
Parti mit-training tal-ringing ovvjament huwa li tara fl-asafar individwalment. Importanti li inti meta twaħħal iċ-ċurkett, meta qed tlibbes iċ-ċurkett il-asfur, ovvjament tkun taf l-asfur x'inhu biex ovvjament tieħu nota tal-asfur x'inhu.
Persuna saqsit Irena, if I'm not mistaken, I'll speak in English because the message was in English. So, the reserves, yes, like her, I believe that nature is essential. I personally have suffered through depression. If it wasn't for nature, I would not have recovered as I have. And it's crucial because nature makes us feel that we are part of something greater. And the reserves, hopefully, as we talk about mental health, on the 26th, they should open, okay? So this is what is perceived and what is hoped. Nothing changes on the 26th, no new regulations or no peaks on the 26th. And it is crucial, yes, for mental health. In countries, it is prescribed for doctors to go out in a reserve, in the countryside, to enjoy nature in something productive, not aggressive that obviously destroys. It's important that we are nurturing. Yes, absolutely. Don't forget the great team of our communications department. Follow the media on Facebook, on all the social networks, just to keep yourself obviously aware of what's going on with the reserves and when they will open, okay? So guys, just once in a while, just swipe that finger and just check what's going on. Issa, għal nis li qed jarawna bil-Malti għan nitkellem u nispjegalkom li aħna kalla jrid jekk ma jitbiddel xejn, ir-riservi għandhom jiftħu fi-26 ta' dax-xahar. Issa importanti għax in-natura hija essenzjali wkoll għal moħħ għal biex aħna nirrilassaw u ngawdu dal-ambjent tant sabiħ il-patrimonju naturali fir-rebbija jorik.
Ħantelfek sekond dan il-brod, mela dan huwa għasfur komuni ħafna.
Araħ.
Huwa għasfur sabiħ ħafna wkoll, dan huwa l-għasfur tal-bejt li naraw fid-djar tagħna fuq il-bejtu mal-poles tal-elettriku, mal-wires.
Mhuwiex il-house sparrow.
Le, bl-Ingliż huwa l-Spanish sparrow. Il-house sparrow għandu rasu griża, dan għandu rasu chestnut skura. U bħalissa l-irġiel ikollhom munqarhom iswed kollu, kollhom l-iswed jibqa' nieżel hawnhekk għax ikunu qed ibejtu. Dan l-asfur kien diġà kellu ċurkett. Again huwa asfur li ma jpassix residenti allura tru ir-ringing li nagħmlu regolari jinqabad u nkunu nistgħu nsegu daw l-asafar it-trends fil-population tagħhom, kemm qed jgħixu, etc. Aħna ir-ringing huwa non-selective, ġifieri aħna nirringjaw kollox. Bażikament. Li l-asafar li jinqabdu fi xbik. L-iktar li naqbdu huma asafar żgħar għax ix-xbik tagħna huma npoġġuhom bejn is-siġar. Mela.
Le, kont sajt xi ħaġa fuq l-asafar jindarba pereżempju frenja rajt badan diħel fiha, ħabat maħħamletek u ħareġ.
Eżatt, ġieli konna safar kbar, imma normalment ix-xbik tagħna mhumiex diżenjati biex jaqbdu dak l-asafar.
Importanti wkoll li niftakru li r-riservi huma biex ingawduhom. Assolutament. Ġifieri taraw x'inijiet jiftħu, kallajiet meta jiftħu u tiġu u ġibu ovvjament il-familja u taraw fejn ġifieri tistgħu tmorru. Il-Forest 1000 hija miftuħa, passaġġ tinsewx l-informatika, ġifieri il-medja soċjali, tidħlu fil-website, fuq Facebook, jew l-website uffiċjali BirdLife Malta u taraw hemmhekk għandkom l-informazzjoni kollha. Nirringrazzjaw il-communications team li żomma ġġornati għax mingħajr komunikazzjoni ma iseħħ xejn ma jkun jaf xejn. Fim, ġifieri ħadd ma jkun jaf u nibqa' ovvjament fil-għama kif jgħid il-Malti. Mela, aħna llum għodwa tajba u bellezza u għaddu ġej, l-asafar għadhom jinqabdu u nixtiequ nirringrazzjawkom li qomtu magħna, ħalli aħna qomna aktar kmieni, imma nirringrazzjawkom u napprezzaw l-involviment, idħlu membri, siru volontari, fimt, għax mingħajrkom aħna il-poplu mingħajrkom maħna xejn, fimt? So, I'll just say this in English. I thank you so much for the followers that do not speak Maltese, our native tongue. Don't forget, be part of nature, visit the reserves, go out. It helps everyone. And don't forget, if you want to be part of BirdLife Malta, become a member or volunteer your time. You know, anything. Opinions. And if you see any illegalities, don't forget, the hunting season now has started. It's only allowed till noon. So the only species that is huntable is the quail. And if you see any large birds, just contact our conservation department, inform people. The more people know, the better. The more eyes, the less chances for any illegalities to happen. This is our natural heritage and it belongs to all of us and we're part of it.
Mela kif għal Nimrod nirringrazzjakom tal-li segwejtuna illum. Din ir-ringing session li għamilna live fuq Facebook. Nispera li tallimtu xi ħaġa wkoll. U infakrukom li again seguna fuq il-paġni tagħna biex tkunu tafu meta ħanerġa' nagħmlu xi events oħra bħal dawn. Doing.